who has very interesting connection both with the U.S. and the Canada as far as Indigenous communities in her own personal life, and she's also responsible for studies that we have been hearing about. So just look forward to JoLee describing her personal connections with Hep C elimination as well as her professional and academic ones, please.
Hi, thank you for that. My name is JoLees Sasakamoose. I am from Chaging First Nation in Ontario, which is here at Robinson Huron Treaty. I'm also an active member of Ahtahkakoop Cree Nation, where my late husband Derek was from, and also he's the son of the late Fred Sasakamoose, who was the first NHL hockey player for the Chicago Blackhawks. And so I'm located right now in Treaty 4, and I live and work in Treaty 6. And I just want to clarify a little bit about the terminology we're using, because this specific program we're talking about in Ahtahkakoop was specific to First Nations, which is people who live in their community. And so we have a lot of disparity in Canada, but we term Indigenous to kind of reference First Nations, Métis, and Inuit people, and that could refer to people on reserve, off reserve, urban, status, non-status. And this particular program was specific to on reserve, and I just want to clarify that because my late husband, while he was from Ahtahkakoop, we lived in Regina. And I believe that my late husband passed away from hepatitis C, and I believe it was due to racism in the healthcare system. And had he not experienced that racism, he might have engaged back into care. If we would have been on reserve, I believe that because of it being people like Jody and family, that he would have been engaged in care. And that didn't happen. So the racism that he experienced in the city center was that my husband had Hep C before and was cured traditionally with traditional medicine. And it's well known by our people that we do have traditional medicines for Hep C. They always don't have access to them. And I know that some of our doctors here actually work alongside of those traditional approaches as well. And that was one of the things that I think that Ahtahkakoop is known for. If someone wants to use traditional medicines, they're supported. And that was not supported in this urban center. And so what happened is it just disengaged my husband completely from even wanting to participate in care at all. And so we didn't find out that he had hepatitis C. I didn't find out until he ended up in the hospital and was in a coma 4 days later, and then passed away 15 days after that with complete liver failure. So to me, when I found out he had Hep C, and I asked him, knowing that I forgot to introduce what I do. I'm an associate professor at the University of Regina in educational psychology and counseling, and I work with Stu Skinner and the medical team. I'm the research director for the Wellness Wheel Medical Clinic. So when I asked my husband, you know that I researched this, you know, and I work with the best doctors in the country, why didn't you come to me? Why didn't you tell me? Because we could have gotten you help. We thought we were getting him help, actually. And he said it was because he was ashamed. And it broke my heart, because I thought, if you're ashamed to tell me, and I work in this field and this team is compassionate, then how does someone else who doesn't have these tools and resources get engaged in care, or even come forward to say I might have Hep C, like even to just say that I might have it? So I think it's really important that we go to the people that we have, like Jody said, people who made her feel welcome and safe, because the smallest thing can disengage someone immediately from care. And the other thing that I get concerned about is the people who tend to get Hep C in our community are vulnerable and have lifestyles that are make it more difficult to engage in care. And by that, I don't necessarily mean drugs and alcohol. I mean homelessness. I mean lack of transportation, things that we get stereotyped in this country and in this province for our HIV and Hep C being all addicts and prostitutes, and this really dark narrative that we get imposed upon us. And people don't recognize our history of residential schools and colonization, and literally having passes that we needed to leave our reserves. At one point, we had to have a physical pass from the Indian agent so we could leave our reserve. People don't understand that history is not history. It was like yesterday. And we live that in our bodies, we live it in our hearts, and we live it in our minds. And so I believe that my husband would not engage in care because he was ashamed to tell the non-Indigenous people that he had it. He was embarrassed. And they knew he had it, and yet they did not make any attempts to really make any contact. And so I guess I hope for this that people understand that the program on reserve works. And we are also modifying this to the urban population here in Regina. So we'll know in the next year or so whether the adaptation of this model works. And yeah, I guess that's all I really have to say. But just from lived experience, when you have a disease that's preventable and treatable and someone dies, it is the most heartbreaking thing you can ever endure. And I don't want to see another person die unnecessarily. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I don't think anyone should be dying of hepatitis C anymore. A question for both you, JoLee, and Jody, and perhaps for all. I mean, how has the community responded to this program? How aware are they of this, the accomplishments of the program, how it's benefiting the health of the community, and how it really is a role model for the whole country, if not other parts of the world? I mean, is this a source of pride for the community, or how do you think it's viewed by the community at large, please?
I can speak a little bit to that, and then maybe Jody, you might have. I know we keep the leadership involved, and they're kind of there are supporters and mover forwards with the information that we share all annually with the community, any successes and reports through an annual report. I think as far as it's a very humble community. So I think that it's acknowledged, but I'll be honest, I don't know if clients and some community members really know the degree of the success of what this means. I think they see it as a great option to services in the community and more programs, more things locally to help improve overall health. But I don't think they see the big picture of what this impact could be by their involvement and being a community-led program.
I would like to agree with Noreen on that. When I was taking the treatment, I lived with hepatitis C for 14 years, and I just felt like I was gonna live with it for the rest of my life. So going through the treatment, it wasn't as exciting as I wasn't too excited about it. It wasn't really sinking in as to how my life was gonna change. It wasn't, but it was the nurses that would get so excited to see me when I go into the offices, or when I finished my first month of the treatment, the second month, and then, they would get excited, and it was a celebration. It was really them that really got me excited about it, because I didn't really understand. I didn't. My life was unhealthy. I didn't have no self-esteem. My confidence was really low. So, when it was really hard for me to understand that. And then towards the end, when I realized, and Dr. Skinner would sat down with me, and he showed me on paper actually seeing that my viral load was undetectable. That's when it was able to sink in a little more easier too. It took a while. It took a while for me. So I can't talk for other people, but I imagine that their lifestyles, being homeless, couch surfing, hungry, struggling with addiction, that's not on top of their list, but at the same time, when I finished my treatment and we did this video with Inshu, it was an incredible experience as well. And then the community members were able to see it. It was shared on social media, and then we did do some newsletters for the community, and we'd share information on that. So we were trying to get the word out there as much as we could. So